Here we go, folks. I got the one and only Kathie Powell, author of the book, The Hardest, Not the Worst Year, A Widow's Journey. Kathie, welcome to the show.
Hey, hi, how are you? And thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm excited. I'm excited for us to chat. I feel like you've had a heck of a journey, both in your life and creating this book, and we get to break down it all today. So
Yes.
let's just jump straight in here, okay?
Okay.
You wrote the book, The Hardest, Not the Worst Year. It's flying off the shelf. People are loving the book. What
Mhm.
is the book all about, and what made you decide to write it?
Okay, well, I knew I had a book in me. I didn't know it was this book. And a dear friend of ours actually said, you need to connect with Jake. So I boldly stepped out and connected with you, not actually really realizing what was going to happen. But the reason I wrote the book is because I couldn't find a book like it for someone like me. There's lots of wonderful books out there on grief, but there wasn't one that really spoke to me. And I remember one of the things you said to me in the interview, you said, and this stuck with me the whole time, was Kath, like you need to write this book not only for you, but for that person that needs to read it. Like you can't quit on this. And I was like, there were many times where I did have to press pause at one point. You were so gracious in that because I didn't think I had it. I didn't think I had something to say. And with your team, Adrian and Mikey, yourself, everyone was so kind and so supportive and encouraging, just saying, like, just put your head down, like, just put your head down and do this, right? Don't edit, just write, throw it up. So
Yep.
I wrote a book about grief, about the hardest, not the worst year of my life, after losing my husband of almost 43 years. And it was just, I don't know, it came out of, it was cathartic. It's really real, it's raw. It's not a how to grieve book, it's a book about grief. But I think what the book offers people is the ability to see it, maybe have a little bit more understanding, and actually have some empathy for themselves as they go through grief. If you're past the age of 2, you've probably experienced a loss, and that could be losing your favorite stuffy. But there's grief in that. So we all experience it. It's all unique, but it is a universal thing that we're going to experience.
Mm,
That
mm.
answered your question.
Yeah. I'm the one of the first things you said really is interesting to me because I think one of the biggest reasons why people don't write a book, one of the top things that we hear is, well, there's already so many books out there. Who's going to read mine? And the entire reason that you really felt compelled to write it was because there were a lot of books on this topic or on a similar topic, but none of them resonated with you based on where you were at in that moment of your life. And I think that's such an important comment that you just made and that you shared because there are a lot of books on book writing. There are a lot of books on probably every topic. Like people have been around for a while and we've written a lot, right? There's never been a book done by you. There's
Right.
never been a book done with your story. And that is so powerful. And that's what makes your book so special because it also gets your cover design and your inspiration, right? Which is unique compared to everything and the iterations. And so I want to talk about that. When we talk
Yes.
about building and creating this book, you made a post, and for everyone that's listening, you can follow Kathie on social and see this, but you made a post about the iterations of your cover design. Talk to me through that experience because you finished with an awesome cover. So
Right.
walk me through the emotions and hopefully, how excited you are now with the finished product, and what that was like. Because I know a lot of people always wonder about how hard the cover design process is, or if they're going to get the one that actually they want.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you are touching on this subject because this was one of the easiest things I've ever done. Like I didn't like I said, I put the idea what I kind of wanted, and I really liked this kind of watercolory red with black font but a white background. I'm like, oh, this will be like a heart, but it was like a broken heart, but I wanted it to look, there was healing in it.
Yeah.
And so I did the post and I shared every one of them. And oh my goodness, it's so interesting what someone takes from what you've said. And I got the most amazing options. And I loved every one of them for different reasons. And the first one, so many people said, why did you post the, the one you didn't pick first and the one you picked last? And I said, because it was such a statement. And it was beautiful, but not what I was looking for. And then I just kind of went through. And then when I saw the kintsugi option with the heart, the white heart, and then the gold woven through it, I was just like, oh my gosh, this person took what was in my head and made it better than what I thought it was going to be. Like this
Mhm.
cover is so incredibly beautiful and exactly the way I wanted it. I wanted a specific font that kind of lined up with my branding, which we got. And I mean, I have it right here. It's like, it's absolutely gorgeous. And what I love about it is like this art form takes broken pottery and it gives it new life. And it's like a metaphor for brokenness and flaws. But what it does is it actually highlights those things.
Mhm.
And I don't think grief is something that we should hide. It is a part of us, and there's beauty in it, which not everybody is going to grasp at in the early days of loss. But you learn to see the beauty
Yeah.
throughout. So I love it. The process was amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool to see the evolution of your covers and how they ended up with what you ended up, which is absolutely beautiful. But let's talk a little bit about the grief component of why this cover is also relevant to the book, right? You talked about the brokenness, you talked about putting the pieces back together after loss or after a change or after some form of grief,
Mm.
right? When people are experiencing this, and like you said, grief is comes in many different ways, right? At many different ages, at many different times in your life. What have you found, and what did you put in the book that kind of talks about not only your journey, but talks about things that people can actually do to learn or to experience or to feel that they're not alone?
Well, what's really amazing is in this process is I know when they read this book, they know that they're not alone, um,
Mm,
and that there's a community. And like you said, there's my Instagram community, which is growing. And again, a book makes a huge difference, and people are reading it, so they feel seen, even though it's my story, and they can relate to a lot of it. And what I think it shows them is that even in what it seems to be the most devastating time in your life, there's light. And you know what's really interesting is I haven't had a lot of people ask me, like, what do you mean it's the hardest, not the worst year? What was the worst year? And I can talk about that if you want, but I think that people can, from this book, will understand that there is light, that um, my grief has taught me so much. My grief has taught me to embrace my life, to not run from it. And my mother used to say, and it used to just be like, oh my gosh, mom, every day's a gift.
hmm
And I was like, yeah, yeah, okay, whatever. And I get it. Like when we're younger, we think we're going to live forever. And I think that in this book, you're going to see that actually time is finite. We have a shelf life. And why not? Like the purpose, I guess, the point of this is so that I want people to live right through till they die. Like till your last breath, you can be living
Yeah.
and not regretting. Um, and in my grief, I have joy. In my grief, I have sadness. In my grief, I have done things out. I wrote a book, for crying out loud,
Yeah.
right?
Why? Well, let's go back to what you said, which and why you titled it "The Hardest, Not the Worst Year." You say people don't ask it. I feel like when it comes to grief, people are hesitant to ask certain questions because they
Yeah.
don't want to offend or they don't want to drudge up, difficult times. But you brought it up, so let's dig in here. Not only is
Yeah.
it the title of your book, but it's also something that I think would be important to share why you titled it this way and what it actually means to you in the form of the hardest, not the worst year.
Well, honestly, it was in a conversation. And it was like I said, this has been the hardest, but not the worst year. And it was like that moment where you stop, and it was working with my coach. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I love that. What do you mean by that?" And I said, I had the worst moment for sure, when John died. That was the worst moment. But the year that I had was not the worst. I learned things that I never thought I would have learned. I did things I never thought I could do. I stepped out and advocated for myself. I learned things that I like from his death. It led me on a path to understand death and dying. Um, it's enhanced my purpose. So I cannot say this was the worst year of my life. I learned to feel my life fully. And have I had a worst year? I've had tough years, and I think worst, I guess in moments you go, "Oh my gosh, this is the worst moment of my life." But then when you look back at it, you're like, actually, no, it wasn't the worst moment.
Mm.
If that makes sense. I think I've had a lot of challenges, and I've had the worst moment, which would be losing John. But my gosh, I have a community around me, family, friends, um, and this group of people, you guys, you held my hand through the hardest year of my life. You
Mm.
helped me write this book that I was supposed to write.
Mm. Mm. What, I want to talk a little bit more about that because sometimes in hard times, hard situations, we don't know how to support somebody else, right? How, and maybe you talk about this in the book, maybe you talk about this in your community and the programs that you run and working with people, but how can people bring this up, or how can people know how to be a good friend or support somebody who's going through grief in some way or loss?
Great question. And there's so much out there. It's like, don't ask this and don't do that. And you know what? We're going to make mistakes. We're going to ask the wrong things. We're going to say the wrong things. We're going to say the thing that grievers like really don't like is like, "Oh, they're in a better place." And you're like, because saying things like that, or God won't give you more than you can handle, or God needed another angel. It's like what happens when you say stuff like that is you're taking the griever out of it. You're putting it, you're going right to the person who died. Okay, cool, that may be true. They may be in a better place depending on what you believe, but I want to say that you can ask any question. I'd rather somebody ask a question that might be awkward, that might be, "Oh, you shouldn't have said that." Because how else do you open up the conversation? So I'm not about, shutting people up. I'm like, just ask. But another really, really important thing, and it's hard to be friends with a grieving person, I'm not going to lie, because we're all over the map. But just listen. Um, and you don't have to fix us. We are not, we have broken hearts. We are not broken. You can't fix this. This is not a fixable thing. We've lost something that we love, and that could be a job. You can't, "Oh, well, that job sucked," like saying stuff like that. Well, then be like, "Okay, can I talk to you about that? The job actually didn't suck. I really loved it. And I'm so sad that it's over." Then you open up a conversation. We don't have to make the person who said maybe the wrong thing feel bad. We can just open up the conversation. I think we don't have to be so hard on everybody. Grievers need to have grace too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Why do you think it is though that people are so hesitant to ask the difficult question, or because this is true in a lot of different situations. It's not just grief, but it could be whether it's political, it could be religious type
Oh my
questions.
gosh, right.
People are hesitant to ask the wrong thing, right? And so why do you feel, being on both sides of this, why
Mhm.
do you feel that people can be hesitant and afraid to say the wrong thing?
Because we don't have conversations like this. It's not something, grief isn't something that we learn about. And for a lot of time, a lot of people, we grow up learning that feeling anything but happy is wrong. So, and we're taught, oh, don't feel bad. Like, Jake, oh my gosh, like think about it. I don't want you to feel bad. I got to do everything I can in my power to make you feel better. No, it's not my responsibility. And
Mhm.
so it's being able to say, like, you know what? I don't have to carry this for you. I just need to sit with you. Now, when we talk about religion and politics, that's a little bit different because that's where you can get into cancel culture. And I mean, I think it's just if you don't know the person really well, maybe think before you're going to ask a question. That would be it. If you know the person really well, you can ask away, and you'll be corrected. But I think that I hope there's not cancel culture and grief, but I can see it in other areas for sure.
Yeah. Now you put a lot of effort into this book and it evolved a lot and it's clear you have lived through this to be able to share it in a beautiful way.
Thank you.
Are there any standout moments or turning points during your book experience with our team?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I for me was the encouragement was so great. I at first started writing the wrong book. I did. Um, and I'm gonna if I cry, but I'm so grateful. It was the wrong book, and I reached out to you, and you said, okay, let's take a beat. Like you can take a moment, and I did, and I with having that slight reprieve. And it's not for everyone because some people can come out of the gate, and I was just on the wrong path. I was trying to write something that wasn't me. And you just said, no, you take a beat and let's come back to this. So I came back to it, and as soon as we sat down and went through the stuff, I freaking wrote that book. I threw it up, like you said. I followed your direction, and it was literally a week. Now the process of editing and doing all of that stuff, and I mean getting the outline and all of that, oh my gosh, so helpful. But I could actually do the work, and it took me a week, which sounds absolutely wild, but it's so true. And there was a chapter 8, I did not want to write. I was like, no, I'm not writing this. This is way too hard. This is way too vulnerable. It's way too honest. And then it was like, no. And it is my favorite chapter, hardest chapter. And anyway, yeah, we went through it, and editing, and it's very difficult to, I don't know for other people, but for me, the editing process was really difficult because you know what you're saying. So when you're reading it, you're not actually catching anything. So, I mean, I've read this book a lot. And yeah, just being able to work with the editors who were so beautiful. They would make notes and say, oh my gosh, this is like a powerful point, or this resonates because I've lost someone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they were so encouraging. So I just, the process was beautiful, and you guys held me tight and were so kind. And I think because of that, I wrote a really good book.
Mhm.
Like I can say that I'm really, really proud of it. And it is a good book.
Yeah, yeah, and other people are thinking that as well too. So it's not just you as the author who put time and effort. You're having other people share this as well. And I know our team loved working on this with you. What happened when the book's done? Okay, you're getting ready for launch, right? This is a big moment because you're sharing your story with the world, right?
Yeah.
Sharing it in a physical format in the book. You're getting ready to release it. What was your launch experience like? What happened? What were the results? Talk me through what it felt like to release this thing to the world and do your launch.
I love the fact that you sent me like a roadmap for how to do social media. I'm pretty comfortable on social media, but it was so beautiful. And it was easy, like to do the countdown and to get people out there, do the emails. Like I did things I like would never have done. And even just saying like I'm really proud of the book, it's a good book. I'm like, ooh, normally I would not say that because it's like, oh, you're being too prideful. No, I'm really proud of it, and it is a good book. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. But I was given the tools to roll this book out. And then it was like, man, On launch day, I was like watching like an incredible, like maybe the Stanley Cup playoffs. Sorry, Edmonton did not win, but they played great. But I was like watching that and it was so exciting. And then seeing people like sending, like writing a review, and people were excited. People were so excited and telling me, I'm buying this for my friend. I'm sending this to a friend. Everybody needs to read this. And I was just like, it was the most beautiful experience. Yeah, I don't think it would have been as great without working with your team. You gave me the tools, and my audience and beyond has actually grabbed a hold of this. It
Yeah.
was fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you hit bestseller status, which was
Oh yeah,
awesome.
sorry, I did.
But
I in a few categories, and I didn't write them down. I love that actually. One was women's poetry, because there is poetry throughout the book. And I was like, look at that. Yeah, and I was kind of neck and neck with Whoopi Goldberg and Tuesdays with Maury on like grief and bereavement. And I was like, what? And actually at one point I moved ahead of Tuesdays with Maury, and Whoopi pulled into the front, which I'm fine with. I got her book too. So yeah, I thought that was like, I was like, wow, wow, what a
yeah,
moment in time.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And so, okay, so now that the book's out, you're getting people talking about it. People are buying it for other people because they're like, this is so great for you. What has this sparked already since the book comes out? What has it already sparked? I know you've been working on a few things that have come directly as a result of you writing the book and people reaching out. So, talk to us about what you've kind of been able to turn the book into
Oh
since its
yeah.
release.
So what's really, really interesting is something that you encouraged, I think you encourage all authors to do. And I like honestly never thought of this as a business tool, which is kind of funny because it is like the most amazing business tool. It's actually created a spark in me to want to actually do more with my business. I mean, I created like with the help of someone, a professional, created a website. And I offer it because of the free gift. I was like, what do I have? So first I did like a little journal, and it really didn't have anything to do with the book. And then I went, oh my gosh, I'm going to do a workbook, and a workbook with each chapter. So the premise of that is so that people are reading my story, but then they can work through their own story, because writing is very cathartic. And so I really was excited about that. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to create a program. So what I'm doing is I'm testing it in the next couple of weeks with some people who really want to do it. So we're going to go through the book and we're going to go through the workbook, and if I need to tweak anything. But that's really been amazing because as an educator, I was using a different tool, and now I really want to use my own. I'm creating my own, which I think will really resonate. So I'm so grateful. Thank you for giving me wings. Um, this is so fun and it's so needed. And I know it sounds so weird that I'm like talking about grief, and this is so fun. Well, you know what? Digging into feeling your life is so important, because when we stuff down our pain, our brain doesn't know, oh, I'm going to stuff down. It stuffs down everything. So you live your life at less than 100%. I don't want to live my life at less than 100%.
Yeah.
I'm living my life, I would say, Jake, with you and your help in this book, I'm living at 150%. And I was living at 75% before.
Mm.
Yeah, let's go.
That's huge. It's funny because a lot of people will say, turn your mess into your message, right?
Mhm.
And that's a great phrase for a lot of the case. But what you're doing is you're turning your message into the movement, right? So
Yeah.
it was your hardest year, turning it into this book, and this book is now turning into fun and opportunity and things that you didn't even know were going to spark or come out of it
No.
until you were there. And that
Yeah.
is that is one of the greatest gifts books can do for the author. And of
Mhm.
course for everyone who gets to read it, but for the author itself, you get to experience the joy of the process and the joy of what comes from it. And most of those things are unexpected until they happen.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I cry when I read this book. Like, when I read it, I still cry. Like, I still feel it, but I feel it And I think it's so important. And if that is the one thing that people get out of this, is to actually feel their life. And it's like feeling the pain, but also feeling the joy, because what happens to a lot of grievers is they live in a dark place and feel like there's absolutely no light. And
Mm,
it's like, we have to be an active participant in our life. We have to do the work. We will carry grief. I describe it as like a backpack that you're carrying. And sometimes it is so freaking heavy that you can't get up. And other times it's light and you're running.
yeah.
So feel it, move with it. You will learn to adjust to the weight.
Mm.
Sometimes you just got to sit down.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. So, how do we, Kathie, this has been awesome. How do we get the book? How do we learn more about the workbook, the programming that you're doing? Where can we go to follow you and to read The Hardest, Not the Worst Year?
Well, it's very easy. Just go to Amazon and just type in the hardest, not the worst year. I know it's a long thing. Maybe even if you do the hardest comma, it'll come up. And you can get it in the ebook, and you can get it in paperback. And it's really easy. It comes if you get the ebook, you'll get it right away. The paperback comes in a day or two. And then for the workbook, you just have to go to my website, which is www.kathiepowell.ca. It's super easy. And everything's there. What I do, I am an end of life doula, which I became in the hardest, not the worst year. Grief educator, which I was years before. It's all on this website, the things that I offer. And my Instagram is A Room for Grief. That's it. So that's how you can get a hold of me. I'm on LinkedIn too.
We'll link it all up for everyone to get access to it. But I just got to say that I'm so proud of you for doing it and making it through. I mean, I remember the first conversation. I remember the Jake, I'm writing the wrong book conversation, and then I now am experiencing the here's where we are conversation.
Mm.
And it's been a beautiful journey. I'm so grateful that you trusted our team. I'm grateful that you came to be part of this show. And so thank you for being here today with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for everything you brought to my life. Thank you for this.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, everybody. You know the drill here. Make sure to go grab Kathie's book, The Hardest, Not the Worst Year, A Widow's Journey. You can grab it anywhere online. And here's my challenge for you. As you know, we wrap up every single interview with the challenge. So here is my challenge for you is think about your own life. Spend a minute, 2 minutes, and see if there's an area that you would like to talk about. See if there's an area that you would like to talk about. And this may be a personal relationship, a friendship, a romantic relationship. This may be something around your business, around your life. This may be around anything. The food that you're eating today. Think of something that you want to talk about and then bring it up to one person or even journal about it yourself. But what we want to do is get you thinking, get you feeling, get you experiencing life so that you can be like Kathie and live at 150%. That's what I got for you today. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.